We're joined today with Laura King, who is an automotive service technician for 19 plus years, and she is now a lead inspector and investigator with the Ontario College of Trades. So she's definitely a vet and an awesome person to learn from. So excited to hear from you and have you share your stories with the students with us today. So before we get started, welcome everyone. Where are you joining us from? I'm curious to know. Awesome. The sound is awesome, and we're looking forward to the interview. Us too. All right. So before talking about, the career that you found and the passion that you found in the automotive industry, maybe we can jump back to where it all started before you kind of found what was meant for you. What were you like in high school and the early days of Laura's life?
Well, the early days of my life consisted of always playing sports, driving my bike, trying to take my bike apart and put it back together, and those sorts of things. And I always hung out with the boys, so I was, not playing with Barbies. I was playing with Tonka trucks and that type of thing and building forts. So I was always pretty adventurous, and all the way through school, I was in team sports, and then as most teenagers do, my choices became different, and my dad got sick and passed away halfway through grade 10, so I dropped out of high school, made some I wouldn't say wrong choices, because experiences bring you to where you're supposed to be and teach you lessons. And so I ended up going back to high school when I was 26 years old, and that was the time when I got clean. So I had a pretty rough patch for a number of years, like 15 years, and so I went back and I got honors in high school and top marks in math, and I don't think I would have achieved those marks had I stayed in high school at that time. So it's pretty much a school path.
Yeah, thanks for your vulnerability and sharing that with us. I think sometimes the non-linear paths are the ones that teach us the most and give us these experiences that we might not have otherwise had. And so sometimes it's a beautiful and messy journey filled with lots of learning. So thanks for sharing that with us. And was it in high school, when you returned to high school, was it in high school then that you realized, I want to go into, skilled trades, or I want to, be an automotive service technician? When was it that you kind of found that passion or fell into it?
Well, it was more, so I was going to try to study social work, and I was working with Elizabeth Fry Society, and I quickly, I loved the job, and I love helping people, and I love listening to people, and I'm always up for a conversation. And so it was then that I quickly found out that I could not continue on that path, because I just took everybody's personal stuff to heart and carried it around with me and had my own issues. And so I did a career directory test, and had an employment counselor that I went and saw, and so they helped me kind of change path, and I scored a 99% in the mechanical field. And it wasn't a surprise, because with the guys that I hung around with, we fixed VW bugs and Novas and Camaros and such, and so it was just kind of a hobby, and then soon it became a career. And so then I went to I did the test, and then I quickly switched paths and went to Nova Scotia Community College and did a year of automotive service technician there.
Yeah, it's almost serendipitous in a way. And the test that you did, I'm curious, do you remember what kind of test it was, the career test? I know it must have been a little while ago, so if you don't know, no worries.
Yeah, it was like a bubble sheet. I think it was a CDI test. I think
Okay.
was what it was, and it just kind of asked questions.
Hmm.
I can't recall, it was so long ago, but
Yeah.
20 years ago. But yeah, so but it was good because I scored like environmental studies, like we're all up in the like animal care, mechanical field, like social work was in the 44th percentile. It was like, okay, like just because you care about people doesn't mean you can fix their problems or help them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's I definitely have a similar experience with a career test. Like today, I think in my top three was entrepreneurship, and that's ultimately what I ended up going to school to study. So I can say, at least from both of our experiences, that some of those tests can be pretty accurate as far as like where your passions lie. So that's pretty cool. And you mentioned that you also had a career counselor. Was that like within your high school, or was that like a personal mentor that you had, or someone you found? I'm just asking because I know that a lot of high school students look to find those kinds of resources to help figure out, what possible paths are out there, or what would be the best thing to pursue next. So, if you remember.
Yeah, my guidance counselor in school was more about university and college and not the trades in particular. So this was through the organization where I was working. So they kind of did that as well as a service. So just like sat down and kind of bounced ideas off of people, and where are you most happiest? How can you be happy? What do you enjoy to do? Even if it's a hobby, like it might it can become your passion, your career. So I find like these days, a lot of teachers are overwhelmed, and I don't think that they have the opportunity to, you know, look into the different technologies and what's going on. And, there's such a trade shortage just across the board, and especially in Ontario. And, young people are just not coming into the trades. And it's one reason why I want to do this, because it's really, really important. And it's not just, there's such a stigma to the trades that it's no good, you don't get paid any money, and you're kind of like, you're dumb if you're in a trade or such. So, and it's so wrong. I mean, everybody needs a car, everybody needs a house, the mechanic has to fix the car so you can get to your work. And so it's very important. And the money is there, it's there.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I think it's so important to expose, especially young students, to the possible career paths too. Because when you think about trades, even like when you think plumbing, I think students are so quick to box themselves into what that looks like. But in each skilled trades, there's like intersections of different types of roles that exist, and I think it's just a matter of shining a light on what kind of career paths are actually possible with that degree. Like, what can you do with that beyond what you're imagining in your head? And so when you mentioned that, I agree. Even back when I was in high school, there was just not enough exposure to the trades. And off the top of your head, if you know of any kinds of resources, maybe there's like trades fairs or things like that high school students could look for. If you know anything off the top of your head, I'd love for you to share that, because I think that would be a great resource for young girls to seek out.
For sure. And with my current job right now with the Ontario College of Trades, we try to attend job fairs in the high schools. And my colleague and I spoke in front of 400 students a couple of years ago. And always just try to we try to network with other community organizations to try to broaden our horizons, because there's so much out there that you kind of don't know where to look. And so, like when I was in Nova Scotia, I got involved with Techsploration, and I was a role model for the young ones coming into the garage. And I will never forget the one, she showed up in white, and I thought to myself, oh boy, this is going to be fun. And she was the one most interested in everything that I was showing her. So you never know. And judgment-free zone, right? And so I think there's a lot of opportunity out there, and I think there's a lot with co-op students and such, and I think that, you know, the government right now is pushing a lot of money through apprenticeship and really focusing on the trades, because it's in dire straits right now. And so they're, you know, starting to go into high schools, and like I just had a presentation to co-op class in their last semester, and so they're all, you know, getting involved and asking about the apprenticeship path and all that kind of stuff. So it's like, and to be an apprentice, you can work and earn money and still, you know, you're not acquiring any debt. Where if you go to college, and I'm not saying like, you know, university degrees are bad or anything, but you know, you go to university, you have to get a part-time job, study, and you're still acquiring debt. Where with this, you know, there's tool grants for people to get, you know, a loan for zero amount of interest, and acquire like all your tools that way. And some trades don't even require a lot of tools either. So there's just so much out there.
Yeah, I agree. I like, even my cousin who entered the trades, he studied HVAC, and within 2 years he was pretty much working full time, making more than most people I know that came out of university. So it's interesting. It almost kind of fast tracks that, you know, start to the adult career, which is cool, and it can be appealing to people. So that's interesting that you brought that up. And I think going back to high school and what people can do to get involved in the trades, even, you know, in my high school, I think we had an auto shop, and there were opportunities to do co-ops actually in high school. So that's kind of cool. And even then, you know, I guess you can look for part-time work in your area in those fields, even as an apprentice, like you said, or, you know, working in that environment. Maybe it's not, you know, always, you know, working with the car or exactly what you want, but there's ways to kind of get one foot in the door and get that experience. So it can start earlier than a lot of people think it can, I think. So that's, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Absolutely. And I think that some trades also have laborers, and so you can be part of the cleanup crew, or you can be stock shelves or what have you, like just to be in the environment and see if you actually enjoy it. And, you know, some people can hold quite a few apprenticeships as well. Like you could work part-time in an automotive garage and then work part-time as an electrician, and just see if, you know, which one speaks to you. And so, and there's lots of opportunity in the trades to have your own businesses and be a contractor and help employ other apprentices after you're through. So
yeah, we have a family friend who's a plumber and owns his own business, and he has more vacation weeks than I know of anyone. So there's definitely a lot of perks to the trades and that possibility of kind of running your own business from it. So that's pretty cool. Now you were, I guess, in the industry, for 19 plus years, specifically as a technician. Where was that at one place? Take me kind of on a journey through those years.
So yeah, I did the year at the Nova Scotia Community College, and then I graduated from there and did the co-op at O'Regan's Toyota in Halifax. And they hired me right out of my co-op, so I just stayed, and I spent quite a few years there, maybe 3 or 4 years there. It was a great shop. Like, everybody got along so well, and we had so much fun, and like, you know, played tricks on each other, which, you know, is the fun part as well. And I felt like, you know, there was no, like, I was Laura, and so I think something that I've learned is, you know, I've always stuck up for myself. You know, you're a woman in a trade. That's a lot of, you very rarely see another woman, and, you know, to me that didn't bother me. You know, you just gotta let some things roll off your back, and some things you don't let roll off your back. And I've always demanded what I wanted, you know, and so I moved to Ontario, and couldn't get a job with Toyota, so I got a job with BMW. Talk about a change in cars. Toyota, just the difference from German. Oh, it was crazy. So a lot of learning curve there, and then I worked in 3 different dealerships, and my last time it was a small shop. So I got quite an experience of everywhere. And one thing about the trades is you very rarely get a raise. So you kind of got to move around sometimes if you want to get a raise for yourself. And that's one thing that really should change about the trades is, pay equality across the board. So not just the big dealership making the money, but like the mechanic who's actually doing the work needs to get paid really well. So that's why you have a lot of turnover. So so I had a couple of I was mentored by some great people. Just they're friends of mine today, and then I got to mentor a couple of people myself, and and then the College of Trades was put into play, and they actually had trade boards before the college was open for business. And like the trade boards are made up of people in the trade, like mechanic and the owner, or union, non-union. And so we came to the table 3 or 4 times a year and just discussed what needed to change in the trades and what could work better and where's technology going and those kinds of things. So I got involved with that, became chair of the board, and then the job as an inspector opened up. So I applied and got the job. So I have a big passion for the trades, and 19 years, like my knees are paying for it, my feet, my arms. So
part of the ride.
Yeah, you got to keep up on the working out thing and stretching, right? So it's it takes a toll on your body, but I was one of those people that wore PPE all the time and protected my ears and stuff, where a lot of people, some people don't. So at least I can hear things now.
That's awesome. And first off, I want to say it takes a lot of courage to be a woman in the trades, and specifically in your field. So I imagine that you've had some awesome times, some tough times. So applaud you for all the courage that takes. And diving a little bit deeper on what it is like to be an automotive service technician. What does that look like? Like, Laura arrives to work. What does a day look like?
Laura arrives to work at like 7:30. You beat all the traffic into work, and you pack your lunch, lots of food because you're moving, lots of water, you just you see, I was on a flat rate system, so even as an apprentice, which, like, I don't agree with that system because you're paid by the job, and so it makes you rush and not really able to learn properly sometimes how to do things, and so you can make mistakes that really cause your paycheck to take a plummet. And so I was one of those people that tried to take my time, and paychecks weren't extremely high, but I just tried to learn the rules and ways of working. And it's a lot of beating things off a car with a hammer when I first started in the trade, and now it's more like software technician. So your transmission's slipping. Okay, let's do a software update to the whole car, and then all of a sudden your transmission's fine. And so today, and there's so many mixed metals on cars, so you got to be familiar with, I always had to read up on technology, and we have magnesium bolts. They don't weigh a thing, so if you tighten them too tight, they'll just break off, and then you got a real big problem. So a day was pretty long. It was 7:30 to 5, with a half an hour for break in the small shop, and then in the dealerships you got a half an hour as well, but 2 15-minute break. Like, you get the breaks that you're supposed to get. So it's a very long day. It's you're exhausted when you get home, but it's a good kind of exhausted. And some of the best parts of my job were talking to customers and being honest. And there's nothing worse than having somebody think that you're ripping them off. And so that's what and because of that, I started my own maintenance course a while back, where I took people and taught them about the car just in general, and just showed them how to change a tire, and taught them the parts of the car, so that when the service advisor's talking to them, they're like, oh yeah, a brake rotor, oh yeah, that has brake pads, and that goes in a caliper, and so they knew what they were talking about. And so I had a lot of, it was very popular for a while, and then it just fizzled off like anything kind of does sometimes, unless you put a lot to it. So that's what a day looks like. I mean, you're really looking for a shower when you come home, and you really want to have an air-conditioned shop.
And you're not wearing white?
That's right. And it's funny because you have an air-conditioned shop, but the car's coming in out of the hot sun at about 3,000 degrees under the hood, and so there's really, the AC doesn't matter at that point. But I used to wear a Gilligan hat, I call it, but it's for the snow when it's dripping down off your head. So you come up with cool creations and you make it fun. I mean, every day I went to work, it was fun, and you get to tease each other in a good way. It's not a terrible way, and so you make friends, and it's just yeah,
and I think every job's what you make of it too. If you enter the day thinking that it's long and grueling work, then it's going to be that. But if you come in and you treat it this is a fun job, and in my mind, and I'm no technician, but in my mind I see it like a car doctor, and every new car is a new challenge or game that you're almost trying to solve, and then when you succeed, it's woohoo, big win, next car. So I mean, and again, no technician, but that's kind of the picture that I'm painting, and kind of that attitude really plays into it as well. So that's interesting. And you brought up an interesting point, because you were a technician for 19 plus years. And when you think about what a car looked like 19 years ago versus now, they're obviously completely different. And so I know you said you would read up on some of the technology, but was there ever, any course material that you had to take to keep up to date? Or what did you do to kind of make sure that your knowledge was relevant with where the industry went?
Yeah, there was a lot of training that went into Toyota had its own in-house Toyota University, they called it, and so BMW had the same thing. Mini Cooper had the same thing, because I worked on minis as well. So and then when I went to the small shop, they put a lot of money into training, because as a small shop you had to, because the dealer gets this stuff from the manufacturer, where the small shop has to source all of that material out. So I've traveled a lot of the states on training with the small shop, and then with the dealerships it was more Toronto and Whitby and stuff like that. And that's the other thing about trades. I mean, you could work all over the world. Some of my colleagues have worked in China, and some of them in Alberta, and some of them work 6 months of the year, and they make enough money that they don't have to work the other 6 months. So it's the world is your oyster with this kind of stuff, is my opinion.
Yeah, and I think it's also kind of cool. In our family, a family friend works at. So my dad worked at Honda, and he had a good friend that was the technician there. And I think it's kind of cool, because outside of work, he had his own garage on his property, and on weekends, it was his job never stopped. He had cars in and out of his personal garage, working overtime on his own. So he had almost pretty much started his own business aside from working at Honda. So I think that's kind of cool too, because your skills translate to like real life services that people still need outside of your day job. So there's almost more opportunity for work if you'd like there to be as well.
Oh, absolutely. I did the same thing, and then I started my own detailing shop where I cleaned cars because I'm so OCD, and like everything, all my tools had to be a certain way and clean. And, the guys played a cool trick on me at Toyota, and they greased my whole toolbox because they were like, "Oh, Laura's so particular about cleaning her tools," that they played a nice trick on me. It was very nice. First thing in the morning.
I feel like that's kind of the office environment though, which is it's fun.
It is fun.
Casual, yeah, which is nice.
Yeah.
And
it's kind of kid-like sometimes.
Yeah. Like you never grow up, which is fun.
Yeah.
We have a few minutes left, so I wanted to kind of just get some quick insights on your current position. So as a lead investigator at the Ontario College of Trades, what does your work look like now?
Pre-pandemic or pandemic?
Likely pre-pandemic, because that's probably going to be more relevant.
Yeah, so I took this job because I'm very passionate about trades and a lot, helping people, and a lot of people don't know how to get help, or some people can't read, and so, but they can work with their hands, and so I love my job in a way that I get to engage with people. So I would go to like so we do the 4 sectors, so service, construction, motive power, and industrial, and so there's 24 compulsory trades that we regulate. So you have to be licensed or apprenticed to be engaged in the scope of practice of that particular trade. So I could be on a huge high rise. In Toronto, I've been in a couple of big high rises, checking people's licenses and apprentice all the way up and down. And then you go into a small mom and pop garage and they're trying to feed you cookies and coffee, and, can't take that, but, but it's like just engaging with so much diversity, and, and everybody, I treat people the way I want to be treated, right? So I go in there and you respect somebody, you get respect back. You give attitude, you get attitude back. I mean, it's just the way it goes. So I've met some really unique people, and I've had people, take off on me, and because they're scared I'm going to arrest them and stuff like that. So, it's quite fun. But then at the end of the day, you get somebody that said, you know what, I just needed that boost to go write my exam and get my red seal, and thank you so much. And I had one guy that I helped. He wrote that exam so many times, and when he passed, he called me and he was crying and he was so happy. And, that's the best part of the job. Yeah. That's the best part of the job. Just helping somebody, it might be just a simple signature that they missed, or, it's great.
Yeah, and that was going to be my next question. What's the kind of like the most rewarding part of the job? But it sounds like to me that would be it.
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, you get, sometimes you get quite irate people, and, we've been trained extensively in conflict, resolution and de-escalation and all that kind of stuff. And it's good. And, if they're screaming at you and you scream back, you're not going to be able to get them to stop screaming, right? So it's, you learn along the way, you make some mistakes, and, it's a good thing. And I just encourage so many people, like, how do you like to trade? Are you okay? What do you want to see different? Well, write your MPP or write the, government, or, you always have an opinion. And I think that matters. Like, be part of change if you want to make change, and demand what you want. It's the most important thing, Don't let anybody treat you badly.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And that applies for any role, any position, any industry. Demand what you want,
Absolutely.
because people aren't going to give it to you otherwise in a lot of cases. So we're 2 minutes over, but that's all right. I wanted to kind of wrap up by asking you if you could, share a piece of insight or, some advice for high school version of yourself. What would you say?
Be open to try new things, and don't become complacent. Ask questions. Don't be scared to ask questions. Nobody wants to raise their hand. They're like, "Oh, not me. Don't pick me." But I think at the end of the day, if somebody's laughing at you because you asked a question, it means that they either wanted to ask the question, or they're too embarrassed, and that that you asked the question for them, and then now they have the answer too. So I think like I said before, the world is your oyster. I think that you just go for it. Do it.
I agree, and you'll never learn if you don't take a shot at things and get as many experiences as you can. So I second that, and I'll just double check that we don't have any questions. Kathy said, so many students are going to be so happy to hear your story. It is so powerful for young women to hear your story. Thank you so much, Laura, for sharing your story and your experience. Thanks for sharing your journey with us. So lots of beautiful feedback. And again, I'm so grateful for your time and your vulnerability and sharing your journey with us. So many women need to hear it, and young girls. So thank you for that. And I hope that this kind of has a trickle effect. So I'll leave it at that. And if any girls on the live or who are rewatching this want to reach out to Laura, feel free to find her on LinkedIn and ask her anything. She'd be happy to help. So we'll leave it at that. And again, grateful for your time and thanks for the session today.